I've wanted to look at this video for a while, okay? It was posted a month ago from a friend of mine, Neon Knight. Neon, if you don't know, you need to get over and get subscribed to Neon. He does amazing work. He is like the Witcher expert, the hardcore RPG expert. Like, he knows his stuff. I actually met him because we both are diehard fans of Kingdom Come Deliverance, which tells you a lot about his taste in games. He's got similar tastes as I. So if you like my stuff, you will like Neon Knight, and he goes deep into these games and the stories and breaks it all down. It's really, really good stuff. But he investigated the brand new Witcher 3 expansion in a lot of detail, it seems, to figure out not just settings, but also content, lore implications. What is that sword that Geralt is holding? What is the monster standing behind him? All of this stuff, we need to check it out. So of course, get over there, get subscribed to him. Let's see what he found.
So, CD Projekt Red just officially announced a brand new Witcher 3 expansion, Songs of the Past. Not a DLC, not an update, a full-blown expansion starring Geralt that is set to release next year. Now, apparently the plan was to announce this during a live stream celebrating the anniversary of Blood and Wine, but CDPR themselves accidentally revealed the name of the expansion in their PC launcher,
which is freaking hilarious. I'm sorry. I know it sucks for the team. They were really excited about this big, like, reveal with the trailer and everything. Like, I get it. Everyone was really pumped about it. But dude, some people were just like on a whatever it was, a Tuesday or a Thursday. They just were like, hey, I'm going to play some Witcher 3. They boot up the game. It launches the launcher. Like, okay, time to hit play. What? What is that? What? They just immediately, like, crashed out. Pretty funny. Can you imagine being the first one to see that? Like, before it starts trending on Twitter, you're the first one to see it and you're just like, dude, I'd lose my mind.
Oh, apparently they just said screw it and revealed everything early, which works for me. And the first thing I want to talk about before we get into a lot of things, honestly, I can't believe I'm making this video right now, is the art that was revealed for Songs of the Past, where we see, in his standard Kaer Morhen armor, Geralt with not one, not two, but 3 swords, standing in front of a huge, terrifying... Well, actually, let's back up to the 3 swords thing.
Listen, you know you're a fan. When you're like, I want to talk about that. No, we should talk about this first. I know I got to talk about this first. Like, it's just overwhelming. It's overwhelming. That's very much how I feel about it, too.
I have been digging into, well, everything to bring you what I'm bringing you today, and here's what I can tell you about those 3 swords, the one in his hands being by far the most interesting, because if CDPR were trying to tell a story with that sword, then they've succeeded, because I went down what must have been a 5-hour rabbit hole yesterday. Now, the 2 on his back, if you were curious, and just to get those out of the way, they're just the default Geralt marketing swords. They famously were used in the early trailers and promo images, but then those swords weren't in Witcher 3 at all when it came out, at least not exactly. So just a few years ago, when CDPR did the next-gen update, they added them to the game. They're just called Witcher Steel and Silver Swords, and they can be purchased from the top-notch swords guy in Novigrad.
Top-notch swords?
Anyway, that sword in Geralt's hands is the real star of the show. The second I saw the art for Songs of the Past, I immediately felt like I recognized that sword from somewhere in Witcher 3, and I wasn't crazy. Yesterday, I spent hours looking at every single sword in Witcher 3, hundreds of them, both silver and steel, and unless everything we're about to get into is a huge coincidence, then that sword in Geralt's hands is heavily hinting at what this expansion will be about, at least. This
is why I love Neon. Because he digs into that stuff. He's like, I wanted to find the swords, so I sifted through all of them. What a nerd, dude. That's why we love him. That's why we love him. You know, we all need nerds in our lives, and the people willing to do the dirty work. You know, he goes deep into like lore and the story and all that. We'll get to that here in a second. You know, I'm on the flip side. I pull out the Excel spreadsheets and stuff. The most nerdy videos I've ever made were like the 40-second rule videos. Back in the day, like, I wanted to test, I saw like a talk from a Witcher 3 designer, actually, at GDC, I think it was. And they were describing how they had the 40-second rule of open world design, how they would go and they would place open world activities every 40 seconds roughly as you explored. So every 40 seconds, something happens to keep you engaged. And I was like, that's interesting. I wonder if that applies to other stuff and other games. So I started testing other games, and I would literally go through and I would play the game, trying to play it as normal as I possibly could, just like or I would take gameplay footage I had already recorded outside of the experiment, so I wouldn't like change my behavior based on the experiment. And then I would go back through the footage and I would like, you know, have an episode of Family Guy or something up on the other screen. And I would go and I had a like stopwatch, and I would lap it every time something new happened that pulled my attention or made me change what I was doing as I just like explored the open world. And what was interesting was that like it actually tracked, that you could actually track about every 40 to 45 seconds, something interesting would happen. And it's like, oh my God, it actually worked. You know, that's crazy. That's wild. And I tested it with other games. Red Dead Redemption 2, it wasn't 40 seconds. It was like 80 seconds to like, I think 100 seconds. It was way more time, but that kind of fit with the vibe of the game. Other games I tried were like way overly aggressive. And it was really interesting because you could track engaging open worlds where it was super like consistent, very precise. And then open world games that were like really boring, or that like would like had the Ubisoft checklist style, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Odyssey, were very different, where it was like way tighter, way more dense, and you know, way more random all over the place because it was just kind of sprinkled across the map. So I've done my fair share of like nerdy, who the hell cares deep dives in games, but it's fun. And actually one of the more interesting ones was where I did it for Hogwarts Legacy. And one of the designers of Hogwarts Legacy's open world sent me, I don't remember if it was a DM or an email or what, but sent me a message and was like, so I can't share exactly what our rule was, but you're very, very, very close. Because it was interesting. Hogwarts Legacy had different rules for different zones of the map, because they knew early in the game you wouldn't have the flying mounts or the broom. So they're spaced differently than the open world for the late game when you get access to those mounts, and they know you're not going to be running around on foot, which is interesting. So there's all sorts of different tweaks. Sorry, not particularly relevant to what we're talking about, but the point is, nerds rule the world. You need us.
Part of it, what that sword's role is. So first of all, the crossguard with the 3 circles at each end of it. That is directly from Witcher 3. And which swords use it? Well, 2 in total, both silver, one called Hav-Karen and another called Meltith. And what do those 2 swords have in common? Well, they're both Elven, and if you look closely, what do you notice about the Meltith sword specifically? Well, that one also has the same exact pommel, the flower, that can be seen in the sword Geralt is holding in the Songs of the Past key art. It's unmistakably the same, and that pommel is also used by multiple other Elven swords in Witcher 3. It's clearly meant to be an Elven sword Geralt is holding. In fact, there are like 5 other swords in Witcher 3, every single one of them Elven, if you wanted more proof, that has a modified version of that same crossguard with the 3 circles at each end. But anyway, I find the elf connection so interesting because one of the big rumors about this expansion, and this one came straight out of Poland, quite frankly, the leaks out of Poland have been the only ones worth listening to, the only ones that have proven to be true, but one rumor I've continued to hear is that this new expansion will take place in Sidaris. And if you don't know, Sidaris is a small kingdom directly connecting to and to the west of Velen, which of course is
It makes sense. Makes sense. Philip, good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well.
Is where much of Witcher 3 takes place. And I find the Sidaris rumor, which by the way long predates the official announcement of this expansion, I find it so interesting because Sidaris was built on the ruins of an elvish city. And also it directly connects to something else that we will talk about in a little bit. I won't speculate much further on the elf connection right this second, but I will say that elven sword Geralt is holding really got me thinking. And speaking of it, speaking of the sword, let's go back to it, because something else I realized yesterday while digging through, well, everything, was that this isn't the first time we've seen that sword. Yes, we've seen the elven components of it in Witcher 3, and hell, the scabbard Geralt is holding is almost identical to Ciri's scabbard, although, to be fair, Witcher 3 only has a few different scabbards that are reused all over the place, and it's not an exact match anyway. The metal portion at the top is different from Ciri's, from both her scabbard in Witcher 3 and in the Witcher 4 footage we have. But anyway, what I was getting to was that just 3 weeks ago, CDPR kind of randomly put out a post wishing everyone a happy Beltane, which if you don't know, Beltane is an elvish holiday, there the elves are again, signifying the 5th elvish month. It's a celebration that humans in the Witcher world then adopted, and CDPR's post a few weeks ago was accompanied by some brand new artwork of Geralt and Dandelion. Geralt in the corner brooding as per usual if we're talking about book Geralt, and Dandelion playing a song for people celebrating. Why does this matter? Well, in the bottom left corner you can see very clearly the same exact sword from the expansion announcement lying next to Geralt in the grass.
So it's concept art for the expansion. Maybe. Maybe.
And if you look in the background of the artwork, framed just between Geralt's face and the tree Dandelion is leaning up against, you can see what looks to be a hand hanging down. A hand that is almost identical to the tree monster's hand that we see in the Songs of the Past expansion art.
Okay, that's a good find. I didn't see that at all. Who would see that? That's crazy, man.
Identical to what looks to be,
like, it does look like a hand. I would not have seen that. That's a good notice. That's a good grab. Maybe this is just us coping. That's a leaf to me. A leaf? Only he would. This is why we love neon. I don't see leaf. It could be a tree branch that looks hand-like, but it does look it looks handy. It looks handy to me.
A hand hanging down. A hand that is almost identical to the tree monster's hand that we see in
four
the
fingers.
Songs of the Past expansion art. This, in my opinion, cannot be a coincidence. That Beltane tweet was only 3 weeks ago. In the artwork, Geralt and Dandelion are in the woods with Dandelion playing a song as a fire burns. And then yesterday, we get this announcement for a DLC called Songs of the Past, with Geralt holding the same sword from the Beltane artwork as a tree monster looms behind him and sparks fly from the lower left-hand corner.
It does. It could just be a coincidence. I'll give you that. A lot of Witcher artwork, it does have fire on one side of the frame because it lights it really nicely. They like having the little embers flying across. Several major wallpapers and pieces of artwork from the Witcher 3 base game use the same kind of format. So there's that. Having a monster behind him, easy money. It's eerie and scary. The part that's tougher to explain away is that he is holding the same sword as in the artwork. And there is the fire and then the spooky tree thing. Like, it could be a coincidence. And it would be really funny, frankly, if somebody from CDPR is watching this right now and is like, they think that's a hand? That's a tree branch, dude. Like, because this could be copium, but it is mighty coincidental. I'll give you that. One interesting thing,
with Dandelion
Geralt has the mark on his forehead. He's still, and it's like, it's a little, I don't know about exaggerated, might be the wrong term. But it's very, very, vivid and clear. And it's also vivid and clear here. So it could just be, that was artwork that they built the scene on. That could be part of it. Or maybe it's just pure coincidence. I don't know.
Songs of the Past, with Geralt holding the same sword from the Beltane artwork as a tree monster looms behind him and sparks fly from the lower left-hand corner. I mean, maybe I sound like a conspiracy theorist right now. Okay, this is future me interrupting. As I was editing this exact part of the video, CDPR ended up doing that Blood and Wine livestream celebrating its anniversary. And while they didn't talk about Songs of the Past hardly at all, it was a Blood and Wine livestream after all, what they did confirm was that the Beltane artwork does indeed connect to the new expansion. They said that outright, although they didn't give any hints as to what the connections actually were. They were super tight-lipped when it came to the story of Songs of the Past. Also, not that there was any doubt, but they did also say that the sword Geralt is holding, the one we've been picking apart for details, they did say it is very important to this expansion.
So yes, Geralt is holding a sword. It is a very important sword for the story, and you will get to know it once the game is out. So just, few more streams before that when you guys reveal it.
Okay, so
I can't wait for the sword to be like pretty solid and then be totally useless within a couple of levels. It's one of my frustrations with The Witcher 3 is that you'll get like an awesome thing that had like an awesome piece of equipment or a sword or something as part of a story reward or whatever, and then 3 hours of gameplay later it is useless. You're way past it.
Let's talk about that tree monster behind Geralt. My first thought, like I'm sure many of yours, was that it sort of resembles a Leshen, at least in that there's a tree component to the monster, but honestly, in my opinion, that's where the similarities begin and end. We've seen multiple Leshens in the Witcher games, and they look almost nothing like the monster behind Geralt, although CDPR could easily say it's just special, a rare hybrid or whatever, and that would explain it if it does turn out to be a Leshen. However, what I also think is worth mentioning is that in the books, Tower of the Swallow specifically, Geralt runs into a different type of tree monster. It's described as resembling a huge oak tree so clearly that Geralt thinks it might actually have been one originally before being mutated. And it's also described as having a huge gaping hole in the center of it that Geralt suspected was used for eating its victims. And if you look closely at the tree beast in the key art, it does indeed have a huge gaping hole in its center. Now, the monster from the books is called a treant or an oak critter, and CDPR themselves have actually featured them in Gwent, and while their Gwent art doesn't match the expansion exactly, it's much closer than their version of a Leshen is, and the claw it has in particular is very similar to the artwork from the new expansion.
Yeah.
And in saying all of this, in overanalyzing the announcement yesterday, which I hope you guys have enjoyed, if you have and want to leave a like on this video, that'd definitely be appreciated.
Go like it and sub. I'm telling you, you won't regret it. Neon's awesome.
Subscribe for more if you want, but I will say I'm very curious where the title of this expansion comes into play. Songs of the Past, what could that mean? Does this mean flashbacks? Does this mean something from Geralt's past coming back to bite him, to pull him into another adventure? Maybe an adventure with Ciri involved, at least in some capacity, that will set up Witcher 4. Honestly, I can't wait to find out, but I suppose there isn't much use in speculating beyond that when it comes to the title because, well, Songs of the Past could mean just about anything. I do think Dandelion being involved is highly likely, you know, between him being in the Beltane artwork, Songs of the Past being the expansion name, and also if that Sidaris rumor turns out to be true, we know from the books that much of Dandelion's family is from that area. Dandelion himself is hired by the King of Sidaris in one of the short stories, so there's just a lot of connections there, which makes that rumor more and more interesting to me. Anyway, let's wrap this video up by talking about some of the non-story information that CDPR have revealed about the expansion, because
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I do think, I mean, it makes sense if you're gonna go back. People were asking in the comments of the video I made on this, if I think that we'll see like Triss and Yen. I honestly, I don't think so. Because I don't think that's the point of the expansion. I think pretty clearly the expansion is trying to tee up The Witcher 4. It's gonna focus on Geralt, obviously, like he's gonna be the playable character. But I think a lot of it is going to be about teeing up Ciri, setting some of the narrative groundwork for that. And so I'm excited to see what they do with it. But I don't think that we're gonna see a lot of the extended cast, except that Dandelion, of course, kind of just makes too much sense given his connections to the area and everything. And I mean, he's in the artwork. Like, he's in the artwork. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Can Ciri romance Dandelion? We'll find out.
They've actually said quite a bit, just not story stuff, more in the vein of how much content there will be, some gameplay hints, and that sort of thing. Before we get to that though, I do want to take a quick second to let you guys know about today's sponsor,
Wand,
which is a super useful app that lets you very easily customize and enhance your single-player PC games.
I've actually, we did a deal with Wand as well, and it's actually like a really, really solid all-in-one like modding tool.
From simple things like unlimited health to getting rid of annoying limitations like how much you can carry or how often your swords and armor break, those features and many more can be toggled on or off with just a click. What's even better though is that for games like Witcher 3, and this is a favorite feature of mine, Wand also adds extremely useful interactive maps. Just hit Alt-W and check out the map to see nearby hidden quests or treasure or whatever, and with one click the game can teleport you straight to them. It's incredibly useful, especially if you're doing a replay where you just don't want to miss anything.
Or if you're making like YouTube videos and like, you know, you're like, hey, I'm going to research this sword and I want to show this sword in game. Oh, I found on the wiki where it is. Like using this, you can just go straight to it. It's actually pretty cool.
And that's just Witcher 3 because currently Wand has custom support for over 4,000 games. Games like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Cyberpunk, Crimson Desert, and many more. So if interested, you can download Wand for free, and all of the features we just discussed are totally free to use by the way, but you can download Wand for free by using my link in the description or by simply heading over to wand.gg/neonnight. Okay, so what else do we know about Songs of the Past? Well, just so you're aware, starting at this point in the video, I have watched that Blood and Wine livestream. Everything before this was written and recorded before that happened, other than my little interruption, which I bring up because, well, during that Blood and Wine livestream, one of the other things CDPR confirmed was that Songs of the Past will be similar in size to Blood and Wine.
How big the Songs of the Past?
Okay, so Songs of the Past will be aligned with what you're familiar with Blood and Wine, and what you've come to experience and expect from us when we do our expansions.
So it's expansion pack.
It's an expansion. Let's make it clear.
Now, it has to be said, it's very hard to imagine an expansion that they're advertising as Blood and Wine sized, not having a new map to explore. I mean, the whole reason I had to rewrite this last—
Oh God, the hair. So this armor set with the dyes and everything is my favorite armor set in The Witcher 3. I freaking love it. I love the red, the black. I just like it. But bro, this haircut is criminal. This is unacceptable. That's crazy. That's wild work.
last little section of the video was because of that comparison, the Blood and Wine comparison. In that live stream, they didn't really reveal much else that hadn't already been said. I mean, CDPR devs on Twitter, right after the initial expansion announcement, had been talking about how the expansion would be pretty big, which is what I was going to cover, but pretty big and comparing it to Blood and Wine, those are two different things to me. Hearts of Stone is pretty big, Blood and Wine is massive, and it's crazy to think that we may get a new Witcher 3 map in the year 2027.
Yeah, just in case anybody played it a long time ago and doesn't remember it, like Hearts of Stone, 10 to 15 hours of content. For most people, it's probably closer to 10 because most people are not completionists, but it's a good amount of content for a DLC, for a narrative DLC. Blood and Wine is an entire new region that's totally distinct, with its own, like, even monsters, its own color palette, its own NPCs that dress and act differently, its own vendors. It's its own map. It is a full expansion. It's a totally different area. And it can offer as much as like 30 to 40 hours of content. Its own game, basically. Like, it's outrageous. And that's what they're comparing this expansion to. They're not comparing it to Hearts of Stone, which already I'd be like, sweet. 10 years after the last DLC expansion, we're getting another like 10, 15 hours. I'm in. This is insane. If this is actually what they're doing. Like, what?
That's not 100% confirmed, of course, but I mean, would they say it's Blood and Wine sized if it didn't have a new map? I don't think so. Plus, we also know from a recent CDPR earnings call that there are currently 190 people working on this expansion, between CDPR and Fool's Theory, the studio who are co-developing this expansion with CDPR. But anyway, between the two...
Yeah, I believe what they've said recently is that there's over 100 at Fool's Theory working on it. And then they have a bunch of people at CDPR who are helping with it. But I'm sure they're doing a lot of other stuff. I mean, I'm sure the people that CDPR helping with this are going back and forth between this and The Witcher 4. Because some of the stuff that they're doing, they want to be able to kind of bounce between the two. So I don't know if that means assets are going to be shared or what. But yeah, it's a big endeavor. Like, way bigger than let's just throw something together real quick for a quick cash grab. Like, this is a pretty elaborate effort.
Studios, 190 people. That's a ton. CDPR had 240 employees in total when Witcher 3 launched, and it makes the Blood and Wine comparison make a lot of sense. Anyway, the only other info from the livestream was that there will be new Gwent content in the new expansion, which I think was an easy expectation to have, and that's about it, I think. I guess they did also confirm that Songs of the Past will be featured at Gamescom, which takes place in August, so I'd assume we can expect a trailer then. Also,
yeah, and since this video came out, they confirmed that they will be at Gamescom with a new trailer, and that they will have likely a I think they said, the phrasing was weird. They said people on the show floor will get to see, how did they phrase it? They phrased it in a weird way, but basically, like, it sounded like it's probably going to be hands off. They'll get to watch an exclusive preview of a quest line or something, but they're going to do like a gameplay reveal and they're going to let people see it. I don't know what exactly that takes the form of. maybe they do let people actually play it on the show floor and like actually try it themselves, or maybe it's going to be one of those things where like they can watch somebody play it. I don't know. But time will tell. Usually though, what happens, just so everybody's aware, at Gamescom is they will do, similar to like Summer Games Fest, they will do a preview for media, and then they'll open it up to the show floor, let other people try it. And then like a week after that, the embargo will lift and everybody can talk about it. They'll release a gameplay recording of what people on the show floor saw. Because, I mean, they already went to the trouble of building it out. Might as well make the most of it and share it with everybody. So that's usually what happens. But you know, time will tell exactly what it looks like.
One last thing, in that same earnings call I mentioned a minute ago, there was a small comment where CDPR did say that to some extent, they do consider the new expansion to be a prelude to Witcher 4, which would make you think Ciri has to be involved in some way. Also, her and Yennefer's birthdays are both on Beltane, so maybe another connection there, but, well, I think I just need to wrap this video up.
What if Geralt commissioned a beautiful new sword for Ciri for her birthday on Beltane, and they're like waiting for her to arrive at the fire as they're all dancing and everything, and then a monster strikes, steals the sword, and it basically turns into the Despicable Me ride from Universal Studios Orlando, where you're like chasing down trying to save the birthday package. And then it turns out it was all an elaborate ruse to throw a surprise party for Ciri. What if this expansion is just the Despicable Me ride from Universal? It's not impossible. It's not impossible. The dots are connecting.
Or I'll end up releasing it a week late. I'm very excited if you can't tell. I apologize if I was a little too enthusiastic at points in this video, but I mean, a new expansion to one of the greatest games of all time, I almost can't believe it. That said, if you enjoyed this video,
I also cannot believe it either. I'm like still shell-shocked. Great video, Neon. Love you, buddy. And yeah, everybody needs to go subscribe to him. I will say, I am just flabbergasted that we are here, but I am very okay with it. You know, it's a little bizarre that we are here in the year of our Lord Howard 2026, and we are talking about a DLC expansion for The Witcher 3. Like, what? But here we are. Now, personally, I think what we are probably, I mean, I think it's going to be early in 2027. I think that it's probably like January to March. Of course, at Gamescom, I think they'll reveal what the date is, but I think that we will see it relatively early in the year. I saw some people thinking that it's going to come out like late next year. I'd be surprised. The one cool thing would be if they tried to release it on like this world's version of Beltane, but I don't think it matters that much. I don't think it matters that much. Cyberpunk next, please. I mean, they could go and do another surprise expansion for Cyberpunk, but we just had Phantom Liberty relatively recently. And honestly, like within like about 4 years, we should be getting the sequel to Cyberpunk. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? Isn't that insane? But we're pretty close.